Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Diaries of an Outcast podcast. How is everyone doing? I hope you are doing well. I'm your host, Day J. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. And if you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering why you should reduce your consumption of social media. We're going to get into that. But first, I just want to give a bit of a disclaimer or an overview or a description of what my podcast is about. I give this overview or description of my podcast in the beginning of each podcast episode. And I'll continue to do so since my podcast is really new. And I just want people, when they click on my episodes, to understand and know the main point of my podcast and why I'm here talking to you guys. So, just another disclaimer, if you guys see me, well, you guys will see me looking off to the side looking on my iPad. That's because I have notes and outline for this episode and every episode, because if I don't have notes or an outline or something to go by, I will go on a rant. I will have a million side notes and I will never get to the main point. So that is why I have notes and I tend to look at them every so often. So I hope that does not bother you and whatnot. But so everything I'll talk about in my podcast is revolving around being an outcast, feeling like an outcast throughout my life. And now when I say an outcast, I don't mean that I'm like rejected by society or that I don't have any friends. I just feel like I usually have a different perspective than my peers on things. I usually have a different perspective than most people on things and just like my outlook on life. And I think about like personal development a lot and I talk about it a lot, and a lot of my peers do not. They might be thinking about it, but they're not talking about it. I get the sense that it's not that interesting to people my age, and so that kind of makes me feel like an outcast in a way. And that's why a part of the reason why I created this podcast is to talk to you guys about those things. Another reason is feeling like an outcast is just like being a multiracial person, growing up feeling like I couldn't fit into one ethnic group. Because, like, let's be real, like, especially like in middle school, high school, you do see like certain cliques click together through race or through ethnicity and whatnot. And so being a predominantly white and African American woman, I realized that it was kind of hard for me to fit in a group and to feel welcomed and feel like I was just felt like I belong. I'm not gonna say I never felt like that. I never felt like I belong, because I do feel like I belong in the spaces I am now, but just relating to my past. Also, coming from generations of poverty, I think has uniquely shaped me and has provided me with very unique and wisdom filled insights on life. And I really want to bring some of those things to light and share with you guys these things. Also, like being a first generation college student, navigating that and just navigating life and um, the stress and anxiety that is tied to like the unknown future and all of those things. Also, on my podcast, I talk about social media and trends and um, just things I think need to be talked about more in society. I'm also trying to be that person that is like, I'm trying to provide content that is lacking on social media. I'm really coming from a perspective of someone who has had not the best upbringing. I'm not going to say it was terrible or anything like that, but it was not the best. It could have been better. And so, yeah, I'm coming from that perspective. And yeah, so let's actually get into the content of this video. So today, as you may know, I'll be discussing why we should reduce our consumption of social media. Whether you know it or not, social media impacts you and it contributes to how you think, feel about yourself, and how you feel about the world and how you see the world. And with this, it can distort our impression of reality and of ourselves. And I also believe that it can negatively impact our relationships due to its addictive nature. And the social media beauty trends and standards and the perfectly curated content that we're always seeing, the selective sharing that's always happening has probably had an impact on you, whether you know it or not. And in this episode, I will share with you some studies and stats to ensure credibility on what I'm saying. Now, another disclaimer. Usually in my podcast episodes, I do not provide credibility or research studies. I do not provide that usually in my videos, just because my videos are usually solely opinion based. This video actually is going to be uploaded to my channel, but it's also going to be turned in for my psychology final. So one of the requirements is to have credible sources. And so I just want you guys to know that That is why I have sources. I may not have sources for everything I say in the future. I also just want to say this podcast might be a bit more formal and just a bit more structured so that I can hit all the points and all of the things so that I can get all of my points for my final. Now, let's get into it for real, for real. Now, why might this topic pertain to you? Well, according to a 2022 Statista survey, it found that almost 40% of Gen Z spend on average about 4 hours spend about 4 hours on social media per day. Per day. Okay, that's crazy. Okay, so social media, as we know, is inescapable for most of us, and it has increased the amount of information that is available to us. And so, just like you all, I have grown up in the age of social media, and as a content creator, I genuinely enjoy social media just as much as anyone else. But I also recognize how it is harming us in many ways. So, should we be spending less time on social media or not? Let's get into it. So, the first reason is because social media distorts our impression of reality and of ourselves. So, according to the 2016 issue of the Journal of Current Opinion in Psychology, a study found that female and male college student participants who were exposed to pictures of ideal beauty standards in the West, they walked away with poorer body image and less positive mood than did students who were exposed to unattractive strangers. That same study also found that exposure to Fitspiration images, these are supposed to be inspiring images, inspiring people to eat healthy and to work out and to maintain a specific appearance. When they were exposed to those images, they found that it caused more negative mood and it caused more body dissatisfaction among the female college students. Than did exposure to normal looking people. Also, according to an article published on the FHE Health on FHE Health in fall 2020, it found that I can't remember off the top of my head, I'll leave the picture here. Almost 87% of women said that they compare themselves to images of people online, and I think it was something like 67 or something percent of men do the same thing. That is the majority of us that are online comparing ourselves to others. So we can see that that's just what social media does. It causes us to compare, right? So, but as real as that may seem, that's not the only thing that's happening. We also, I can also see that social media tends to make us feel like we're behind in life, and it makes us feel like we're not doing enough, and like the timeline that we're on is not the right timeline, and we should hop on somebody else's timeline because what they're doing is right. So, according to the 2021 issue of the Journal of Communication Technology, it states that findings show that more upward comparisons on social media caused negative feelings, and that leading social medias to feel worse about themselves. Also, by comparing themselves to people who were perceived to be doing better in life, those people in the study walked away with lower self-esteem. That is because of the selective sharing, which I will get more into in a little bit. But selective sharing really makes it seem like someone's life is perfect and like they have no negative parts of their life, and you start to compare yourself and you start to feel bad about yourself. You start to think that your life is crap. But to support this point, according to the Media and Society website that I accessed on May 9th, 2024, it states that on social media, people often hide the negative parts of their life. They only post their accomplishments, their good moments, and enjoyable activities. And this action, like I just said, is called selective sharing, and it makes it seem like everyone is successful and like they're doing all these great things, and their life is so amazing without disappointments and struggles like you may be going through, like a normal human. But social media allows us to selectively share and pick out little pieces of our life and share what we want to share, and it causes us to really think that we are not doing good. And this really hits home for me because I constantly, like, I can feel really really good about myself. I can feel very satisfied with what I'm doing and just very proud of myself, but I can hop online for 10-15 minutes and instantly start comparing myself to people online, and then my the proudness and the happiness and the satisfaction that I had with myself goes down. If we just take a moment to really understand and to take in what these studies are saying, they're saying that people like me and you are online comparing ourselves to others. When people like me and you are online on average 4 hours a day, that is a lot of time to compare yourself, right? And so I'm going to leave some examples of the highlight reels and the perfectly created content that we are constantly seeing, that is constantly being pushed in our faces. And for you, it might not be these specific creators, these specific influencers, but I could bet that there's at least one celebrity, one influencer, or even a peer whose, content or feed you look at and you start to compare yourself and you start to think like, dang, I wish I was more like them. Or why is their life so good? Or why am I not there yet? Comparing your timeline to somebody else's timeline. This is what happens, and really it can be so damaging to our overall well-being and our mental health and how we're performing in our life. Now let's get into the next reason why I feel like we should be reducing our consumption of social media. Social media enhances feelings of loneliness. So according to the winter 2009 issue of the Journal of Cyber Psychology and Behavior, it states that uncontrolled, unhealthy, and compulsive usage of social media enhances loneliness. Okay, and this same study states that loneliness may be an effect of excessive internet use, because those users are investing on to online relationships at the expense of offline real life relationships, which are the most important in my opinion. Those are the ones that are going to have the most impact on you. And users who are overusing social media are just saying, forget those relationships, let me just focus on these online relationships because that's where I'm mostly at anyways, right? So tied in with this, it's kind of my last point, but it's also just kind of tied in with loneliness and whatnot. So, my last point is that social media can distract us from building and maintaining healthy relationships, and it can decrease the quality of our in person relationships. According to the 2011 issue of the Journal of Human Communication Research, it finds. Commun- Girl, let's just try it again. According to the 2011 issue of the Journal of Human Communication Research, findings show that those with high compulsive internet use experience decreased quality in their real life relationships. They also experienced decreased commitment, and they also had more conflicts with their partners. I'll put a line graph here up on the screen. This line graph was derived from a winter 2020. Oh my God. A winter 2021 issue by the Journal of Psychosocial Research on Cyberspace. As you can see in this line graph, we can see that individuals who were just barely using social media at a low rate, and those who also were moderately using social media, still found a decrease in dissatisfaction in their relationships, along with those who were using um, the internet at a high rate, obviously, right? So we can see here, research shows that the more, or not even, this line graph here just shows internet use decreases satisfaction in relationships. It's that simple. And so, additionally, according to a summer 2016 issue of a paper published on Brigham Young University, it states that the more time an individual spent on social media, like I just said, the more likely they were to experience negative impacts in their overall well-being, and that led to decreased quality in their overall relationships. That same study found that social media negatively impacted interpersonal relationships due to distraction. So we can think of phubbing, right? When you are trying to talk to a friend or maybe your partner or your boss or whoever, and they're looking down on their phone and they're like, mm-hmm, yep, you literally feel ignored. It makes you feel like you aren't worth their time, like you aren't a priority. And so I can absolutely see how that decreases the quality of relationships. If you just think about it, it makes so much sense. It also said that those participants reported increased frustration, depression, and social comparison. And I'm sure this frustration and depression is coming from feeling like they are being ignored by their partners, right? So as we can see, social media can get in the way of building and maintaining healthy relationships. Oh, and don't forget, it can also cause loneliness, people, okay? So some might be thinking like, oh, I thought the internet was a good place to connect and it makes us more connected. Well, in some ways, right? Like if you have family members across the country or who live in a very, in a far city from you who you cannot see on a day-to-day basis or a month-to-month basis, um, yes, social media is good in that way. You can contact them, you can see what they're up to, and all of those things. But I still feel like your in-person relationships, the people that you see every day, those are the ones that you're wanting to connect more with. But yet we're seeing a the opposite. We're seeing people wanting to be online more. So, now one thing I will say in regards to the consumption of social media and how you consume social media is that you have the ability to curate what your social media looks like for the most part. I understand that certain algorithms will still push you content that you aren't asking for, that you don't watch, or that you don't like, or whatever. But for the most part, you have the ability to consume certain content by who you follow and what platforms that you use. Also, just setting boundaries with yourself, with how much you are online. Like, I know that it can be very addictive, but like if you just sit there and be real with yourself, like after you're done scrolling for like an hour, how do you really feel? I know for me, I always just feel very overwhelmed. I feel like I just wasted time. Like, obviously, I'm not, we're not going to say that, but like, what did I really gain? Maybe a couple laughs. I probably gained a couple more saved bookmarks in my Safari because they were, TikTok was promoting a product that I should buy. And that's one thing is like I always feel like every time I get on social media, every time, doesn't matter the platform, I always feel like there's always something that I feel like I need to be doing or something that I need to buy to feel satisfied or to feel like I'm keeping up with the Joneses. And I really just learned to set boundaries with myself. I do not consume, the only content I really consume is very informative, or very inspirational. I do not consume much content. I do not consume much content outside of those two parameters, whether it's like personal development. I'm learning about like fashion or like fashion trends and whatnot. And that, even that like causes me to want to buy stuff, obviously. Setting boundaries with other people online, or I guess in real life as well. Like if you have friends or certain family members who you no longer want to follow or be friends with online, and they, feel like you're being weird for that, let them know, like, hey, like, I feel like your content doesn't really serve me and it doesn't really help me. I love your content, it's great, and I feel like it's very beneficial to a lot of people, but just not for me. And that's okay. You don't have to feel bad for that. I know for me personally, like I would, like if I had to unfollow one of my friends and they might think I'm weird for it, I would feel bad for it, but then logically I understand, like, no, like it's for me, and just because I don't follow you doesn't mean I'm not friends with you. And I think that's another problem with online. Like if you don't follow someone or if you don't like their pictures when they post, apparently like you're weird and you're a hater. But it's like that's not the case. I want to see the things on my timeline that I want to see and that help me and that benefit me in my life, not just, you know. And so yeah, setting boundaries with yourself and with other people is very very important. So to close, I want to just recap on everything that I discussed with you guys today. I told you that social media distorts your impression of reality. I also shared with you some studies to back this up. One derived from the Journal of the Cardinal Opinion Psychology, where they found that college students who were exposed to very attractive people reported poorer body image and a less positive mood. Along with that, according to information on the Media and Society website, people are often hiding certain aspects of their lives. This just further contributes to our distortion of reality because we're constantly comparing, but people are constantly selective sharing. And so we're only looking at the best parts of people's lives and comparing ourselves off of that and judging ourselves off of that. I also share with you some reasons why social media can enhance loneliness and distract us from building and maintaining our relationships. A study done by the Journal of Cyber and Behavior found that the overconsumption of social media enhances loneliness, and that same study states that overconsumption can lead to one to invest in online relationships at the expense of real life ones. So, I think it's fair to say that there are negative impacts of consuming social media. And so, on the other hand, there are some good benefits there should be some good benefits of reducing or quitting your overall consumption of social media. Today, I began this episode by stating on average, 4 hours a day is spent on social media by Gen Zs in the United States. After being informed on all of these negative impacts that I shared with you all today, I want you to take a moment and think about how social media can be impacting you, good or bad, how it can be impacting you or a loved one. I also want you to think about how over consuming social media right now, today, can impact you down the line, whether that means in a few hours or tomorrow. I just want you to think about that. Another thing I want you to think about is how much time you could have back to take control of your life and to work on yourself and to do self care and to spend time with people in real life. How much time you could have back if you reduced your consumption, and how much, you know, cutting back on that consumption can improve your quality of life. And I really, really do mean that. I really believe and I do stand by that reducing your consumption will create a better life. And that's just my opinion. There are some research studies out there that say that, but I think there are some indirect factors that contribute to that, obviously. You have the ability to use social media as a tool and to gain knowledge from it and to gain insights and inspiration rather than it being a detriment on you, your mental health, relationships. You do have the ability to take control of your social media consumption and what you're consuming and all of that. You have the ability to do that. It just takes knowing the right knowledge and information and being self-aware, knowing how much you can consume without feeling without having the negative impacts of like comparison and um, without having impacts on relationships, figuring out what that amount of time is for you and setting boundaries with yourself to maintain that amount of time, that you're spending on social media, and then setting boundaries with other people, and making clear that, like, I still message you, I still love you, but I'm just not going to follow you on social media. Setting those boundaries are totally okay. You're not mean for it. You're not wrong. You're not weird. I just want you guys to know that. And so, yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Diaries of Outcast podcast. Once this video is uploaded a week from today, I will have a regular YouTube video uploaded on my channel. I upload every week, Wednesdays. I don't have a specific time I upload. I just upload on Wednesdays throughout the day. I'll let you guys know. I always try to keep you guys updated on my social media platforms on about like when I'm posting, when I'm uploading, but it's always on Wednesdays, and I interchange every other week. I do a podcast and a YouTube video. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and gained some information and insight, and hopefully you use this information to really just be self-aware about how you're consuming social media and how much you're consuming with it, and recognize how it's impacting you and all of that. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.